Several days ago, I probably unwisely thought it would be a fun idea to try to complete a book for the first 24 days in December. And today is December 1st. So today's book I'm going to complete is How Long Till Black Future Month, which I have technically been reading since April, but it's a collection of short stories. So it's really easy to put it down and not come back to it for several months, which is what happened. I believe I have 4 stories left. Let me count. 1, 2, 3, 4. I have 5 stories left. So let's see if today I can read these 5 stories. Plus, part of what is going to be essential to this is not reading the book in one day. It will be reading books simultaneously and just focusing on finishing one each day. Is this a horrible idea that will definitely fail? Probably. I do have a bunch of books I wanted to reread to potentially make a video about them. And I also need to read more of the books that I own off my shelves. So today I will hopefully be finishing the last 4 stories in How Long Till Black Future Month. And then I will be making some significant progress in the Serpent's Wake, which is over there, because I'm hoping to finish In the Serpent's Wake soon because it has been overdue at the library for more than a month now. And they did send me the final, we're going to charge you for this whole book thing. But if I just finish and return it, then they'll take that off. So that's the plan. Oh, also, very obviously, I was inspired by everyone doing Vlogmas, but also significantly by a project Mari has done for several years where she tries to read 30 books in 31 days in the month of December. I'm not going to do that. But my project might be derailed significantly this weekend. It's Thursday, by the way, when my sister and her entire family and all of my nibblings are in town for a visit. So we will see how things go. But yeah, finishing this book today, making significant progress on one other, maybe 2 others, because I also have some ebooks I'm reading on my phone. But that is the scoop. Hi, it is half an hour before midnight. And I have succeeded in finishing How Long Till Black Future Month. And I have just really mixed feelings about this as a short story collection. Short story collections I really struggle with because I often don't really love them because I feel like you have to really like a lot of the stories to really love them. But when I find one that I do love, I really love it. Probably my favorite short story collection that I've read to date is The Paper Menagerie and Other Stories by Ken Liu. And so I was really hoping I would really love this one as well because I've loved Broken Earth trilogy that I read by Jemison. And I liked the variety in stories that we got, but so many of them for me personally were just really forgettable. Even stuff that I read 1 or 2 days ago, I was skimming through the titles and trying to remember what they were about. And then I had to go reread the first paragraph to be like, oh yeah, it was that one. I am proud of myself because I made a little short too of it and my thoughts. And I would say my favorite 2 stories in here were one that was actually hilariously the one I was stuck on for 6 months called The Effluent Engine, which is kind of a historical alternate history kind of bent to it. And I think I liked it because it had a little history of Haiti stuff. And I read a biography of Toussaint Louverture last year. So used a little tiny bit of that. And then I think I just thought it was pretty well contained and interesting, but also made me want to read more about that world and those characters. One that I actually read, I think yesterday, that's the Cuisine of Memories, but in French. Which did not necessarily make me want to read more in that world or that place, but it was so perfectly self-contained and such a really interesting idea that I think it will stick with me. Otherwise, many of the stories were well written. They just weren't things that will personally stick with me. So I'll probably give this copy of the book away, and hopefully someone who will enjoy it more will pick it up and be happy to have it. 1 day down, 1 book down. Have I made significant progress on anything for tomorrow? No, I have not. So, but I'm too tired to do that, so I'm going to go to bed. All right, we're recording this quick, and then I am driving away. It is Friday, December 2nd, and I am not close. I'm currently reading 4+ books, but I'm not close to the end in any of them. I'm halfway through when no one was watching. I am 1/6 into In the Serpent's Wake. I am 30% into an audiobook, The Removed, I think it's called. And I am 7% into an ebook. So I don't know if I'm going to finish something today. And it's the second day of the project. But maybe I can get close enough to finish 2 things tomorrow. So what did I do today instead of reading? I did some cleaning. I did some helping someone edit their college application essay, and I put up the Christmas tree in my parents' house because tomorrow my sister and her family and all my nibblings come into town. So will I get 2 books finished tomorrow? Probably not. But I'm going to drive home now. I'll listen to the audiobook on the way, and then we'll see. I'll update you if I manage to finish anything. Hello. We are running around packing things to go visit the nibblings. But first, a quick update. It is December 3rd. I very unwisely read an entire book this morning, aka stayed up late between midnight and 4 a.m. But it was very fluffy and enjoyable. So trading sleep, now we'll be tired. I had some caffeine. Was it a book that I was already quite way through? No, it was not. It was one that I was like, oh, this is due in 2 days. Let's see if I'm actually interested. And then I started it. And then my feet were cold, so I stayed up and finished it. It is Sunday morning, December 4th, and I have finished 2 books so far in December. I'm supposed to finish 4 by now. So I need to work on today's book, and I need to work on an extra book. Right now, what I'm doing is making an egg bake for potluck. So what I'm going to do instead is, while I work on this, I'm going to listen to more of the audiobook of The Removed, which I think I have about 3 hours left of. So I could easily finish that. I'm going to say tomorrow because my sister's still in town, so I'll probably listen to an hour and a half today, and an hour and a half tomorrow. Which means I should pick 2 other books up that I'm also working on. But I'll work on that later, because right now, all I need to do is cook this. It is still Sunday. I went to the Children's Museum, and I ended up driving myself, so I had an hour more of time in the car than I thought I would. So I now only have 1.5 hours of The Removed left. So there is a slim chance I could finish it today, but I still think I need to be working on 2 more books, one that would count for the second and one that will count for today, because I think The Removed is most likely to be my December 5th book. I do want to say though, as I'm reading The Removed, one of the things that is really hard for me, I'm struggling with, is I have 1.5 hours of this audiobook left, and I really don't know how I feel about this book. I don't feel very connected to it. I don't feel like I really know what it's about. And I know this sounds weird and silly because not every book connects to me or whatever. I really enjoy books that are about family. And I thought this book might be ostensibly kind of about family, found family, natural family, all the types of family. Furthermore, I really enjoyed this summer when I read, was it this summer or last summer? I think it was last summer. But last summer when I read Sharks in the Time of Saviors, which by the way, they had a fake copy of on the wall at the Children's Museum. It was awesome. I took a picture. Okay, so Sharks in the Time of Saviors is a little bit like this book, or I thought on paper that it would be similar because it's got a little bit of sort of a magical realism kind of mystical element to it, but it is largely set in our world in kind of realism. It is switching between several points of view and some different timelines a little bit, although I don't think this one is switching between timelines the way Sharks in the Time of Saviors was. And it is about a family that in a lot of ways fractured or fragmented after an event in the past, and kind of how they are all dealing with that in different ways. And I thought this book would be the same or similar, that The Removed would have similar themes, and that's why I picked it up. But I just can't get my mind around what the themes actually are. And I think maybe that's it. Maybe I need somebody smarter than me to explain this book to me. Because right now I don't get it, and I don't really feel connected to it, and I just feel like I don't like it, but it feels unfair that I don't like it. I don't know. I feel like I should like it. Anyway, I will talk to y'all later, but that is my really rambly thoughts about The Removed so far with 1.5 hours left. All right, y'all, quick update before I go to bed because I am totally exhausted. It is Sunday, the 4th of December. I have read 2 books so far in these 4 days, or I've finished 2 books so far in these 4 days. And today I did not finish a 3rd or a 4th book, but here is what I did do. I made significant progress on the audiobook. I have about an hour and a half left. I have very confused feelings about it so far. I have made some progress, minor, on A Virtuous Ruby, which is what I'm reading, the ebook I'm reading on my phone right now. I have made about a chapter and a half of progress on In the Serpent's Wake, which is more than a month overdue at my library. And I've gotten to a really big plot point, which is that the horrible ex-boyfriend from the first book, who we only saw in flashbacks in the first book, has appeared in the second book. I want to stab him. I have made 0 progress on When No One Was Watching, which I'm about halfway through. And I am still about 4 days behind in The Promised One, Advent Readings from Christianity Today. By the way, yeah, I'm also doing Advent readings, and I have other daily stuff I'm supposed to be working on that I will not finish during this time period because I'm not supposed to finish during this time period. But I do have a book that I was supposed to finish before this time period that I should finish at some point, so I made zero progress on that one as well. That's everything. I am now going to go to bed, and hopefully tomorrow I finish the audiobook I'm listening to. I think I can do that. I have about an hour and a half left, but most of tomorrow is going to be hanging out again with my family who are in town, which I knew would be happening. And I want to make progress in a bunch of things because even if I'm not finishing things while they're in town, I want to be able to finish things like right and left right when they leave. So that's the current happenings. Also, I need to be applying for jobs. So I'll work on that. Anyway, bye. It is the 6th of December. I have not finished any more books that I thought I would. I did not listen to any audiobook at all yesterday, but it's getting returned at the end of today. So I am taking my child done nail polish off, and I'm going to do something professional for an interview I have on Thursday. While I do that, I'm going to listen to the audiobook. So that's the plan for now. All right, y'all. I finally made progress. I completed another book. I finished The Removed. And I think I realized in the last 30 minutes that I'm just not smart enough for that book. Specifically, there was this one character who, here, I'm going to take my glasses off so you don't get the glare. There's this one character who the entire book was talking about sort of the fowl in ways and like adopting the fowl, feeding the fowl, realizing the fowl was going to like attack him and trying to get rid of the fowl. The fowl continued to follow him, all this stuff. It was not until the last 30 minutes of this audiobook that something happened that I realized that the fowl was not a literal bird. It was a metaphor for this character's addiction. And I was like, oh, this makes so much more sense as a metaphor than as a literal thing. But I was too unobservant to figure that out sooner. And so I feel like the reason I didn't really get the book is because I just wasn't smart enough to catch all the metaphors that were happening. I didn't have the right context. I just wasn't finding them. Your mileage may vary. I know I picked this up because I was watching somebody do a wrap up on YouTube and they gushed about how much they loved it. So obviously I am a different opinion than that person. But for me personally, it did not work because I was not smart enough to understand the metaphors. So that is the scoop on that. But I did make my little short and post that. And I realized that I should start kind of editing this video because I want to, I think, post it either tomorrow, the 7th day of the December, or like the 8th day, so that I'm like doing one a week. So anyway, that being said, I'm going to see how much I can read tonight. Of course, instead of reading some of the 3 books I'm already in the middle of, I started Such a Fun Age on audiobook by Kylie Reed. But I think that's okay because I was listening to an audiobook and now I'm listening to a new audiobook. So I just traded an audiobook for another. But in order to make more actual progress on reading, I'm going to try to get a bunch of In the Serpent's Wake read today, and maybe When No One Is Watching, maybe. But I also want to keep watching Rings of Power and catching up to that, and I also need to do job stuff. We will see what I end up doing, but I have food, I have books, I have television. Let's go.